term used to reference the angels or the messengers, malak, incorporates the lam and the ka. Now, why this is not an unused root is because how many of you have heard of the term halakha? Halakha. Now, what halakha means, it means our walk. In other words, things that help to maintain our walk. That's what they refer to the lifestyle as. Living according to halakha. Well, it just so happens that the term halakha has at its parent root the lamed and the ka. So again, just because Strong said it's an unused root doesn't necessarily mean it's an unused root, because we just heard the word halakha, which incorporates the same parent root, without having to put all that information up there. And again, I encourage everybody to follow up prayerfully with sincerity and humility. So that's one term that has been translated as angel, or in some translations it may even read messenger. So let's look at the next term that it uses, which is ministers. Let's see what this means. And again, these are terms that are used not only for the angels or the angelic beings, but also used for humanity sometimes. Okay? Now, the word translated as minister comes from this term here. The word is sharaf. Sharaf. And the number in Strong's is 8334. Okay? Now this is one of your primitive roots. And what this word means, to attend as a menial or worshiper. Okay? So now the parent root of the term sharaf is your shin and your resh. So, of course, your shin, as we discussed, your two front teeth. Two front teeth. Okay. And your resh, of course, we discussed this as well. The head of man. Now, again, we're looking at the different properties of each of these letters. Okay, so we take the two front teeth. What do the teeth do? Well, the teeth are used to chew. As far as the two front teeth, we know that they are the incisors, and they're used to cut. You know, whenever we're eating a piece of meat, the incisors basically cut the meat from the bone, if it is attached to a bone. But the point is, when we're doing that with the teeth, guess what the teeth are doing? The teeth are working. Okay? And simply put, the head of man in this particular passage or word, it simply means that, amen. So what you have here, because of the teeth working, you have a working man. So that's what the parent root means. Shin resh, a working man. So a working man is referred to as a menial. But then in another sense, you also have a working man referred to as a worshiper. Think about that. Now, why is worshiping considered to be work? We'll talk about that another time. But just think about that. Right? Focal point is that he created his angels, messengers, and workers, servants. Okay? So let's move on. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 28. And we're going to begin at verse 11. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Zor. Now, this message, and we want to emphasize this at the outset, this message begins by addressing the king of Zor. But what we're going to see, it's about to change to somebody else. Now, how do we know it changes to somebody else? I want to put that question out there first so that you pay attention to what's about to be read. Continue. It says, take up a lamentation upon the king of Zor, and say unto him, thus saith Adonai Yahweh, thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. Let's think about that. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Elohim. Right there. What did we just learn? Okay? What did we just learn? Now, take your mind back from what we know, from what we understand about the Garden of Eden. He starts off talking about the king of Zor. Some of your Bibles say Taurus, but in the Hebrew it's actually Zor. There were only 2 human beings that the Bible teaches us were in that garden. And we're going to see that story at some point in this lesson. But those 2 people were Adam, Hawa, Adam and Eve. But this is referring to the king of Zor, and it's saying in verse 13, thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Elohim. So what happens now, it shifts from talking about the king of Zor to now talking about some other entity, some other being. Question we have to ask ourselves, who is it referring to? So let's look at a few more details. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardonyx, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. Hold up. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Now what we want to do, we want to interject other passages so that we see what's being explained to us by the Bible. So we want to turn now, those who are following along, to Exodus chapter 28, beginning at verse 15. And let's pay attention to the description. And for those of you who are familiar with Exodus chapter 28, you have an idea of where we're going and the connection we are about to make. By the word. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work. After the work of the ephod thou shalt make it, of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, and of fine twined linen shalt thou make it. Full square it shall be, being double. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span shall be the breadth thereof. And thou shalt set in its settings of stones, even 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. And the second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row a beryl, and an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold in their enclosing. Question: what is that which was just described? This is the high priest's garments. So whatever or whoever that entity, that being described to us in Ezekiel 28, because of that comparison now that we find in the Word, the thought comes to mind, this person must be a priest. And not just any priest, because not all the priests had the stones set into the breastplate. A high priest. Think about that. Let's move on. Let's go to, let's continue with verse 13 in Ezekiel 28. It says, the workmanship of